Good luck to both teams.
All right, stop.
Round 16. 16? 15. 15. Toss up 1. The first prize awarded by this country's prestigious JINR Institute went to Chinese scientist Wang Gangchang. Scientists in this country once claimed to have discovered a substance called polywater. The scientists working in this country advanced Maturism, a Lamarckian doctrine that vernalization was more important than natural selection. In the 1940s, 9 scientists in this country starved to death, preserving the VIR seed bank.
Norway.
Sorry, no. Engineers in this country designed the Tu-144, a noisy SST rival to the Concorde. In 1986, this country launched the world's first modular space station, Mir. For 10 points, name this country whose Academy of Sciences was where Trofim Lysenko worked in Leningrad.
USSR.
Yes.
Greg from
In January 2024, billionaire Bill Ackman clashed with Business Insider over Business Insider's allegations that Ackman's wife, Mary Oxman, was guilty of this practice. For 10 points each, name this practice. Ackman publicized allegations that Claudine Gay had engaged in this practice, forcing Gay out of a high-profile job.
Like plagiarism.
Yeah.
Yes. Gay was forced to resign from her post as president of this Ivy League university that Mark Zuckerberg briefly attended.
Harvard.
Yes. Following the Gay scandal, a member of this family, who was the chair of the Harvard board, was pressured to resign. A politician from this family used his wealth from the Hyatt fortune to get elected governor in 2018.
Pritzker.
30.
Nice.
JB.
Yes, JB.
Yep. Okay. Toss up 2. Gravity-powered harvesting of this phenomenon can be accomplished with thin meshes like shade cloth. This phenomenon names deserts that are dominantly supplied by its drip. When this phenomenon coincides with forest fires, it can be super. A low-altitude temperature inversion causes the Thule example of this phenomenon's radiation type, which depletes via burn-off. Wind passing over a cold surface can cause...
Is it smog?
Yeah, I can take that for power. Specifically fog, but I could take smog until I said smog. Bonus. This galaxy is connected to the Triangulum galaxy by a stream of hydrogen that may indicate a past interaction. For 10 points each, name the second largest spiral galaxy in the local group, which will merge with the Milky Way in 4 to 5 billion years.
Wait, second largest. Isn't it the largest? Andromeda?
Yes.
Wait.
This component of the Milky Way was likely created by a merger early in its history. This hypothetical component is home to older stars and contains a smaller, similarly named component.
Small, like large Magellan Cloud.
This is the thick disk. Edwin Hubble showed that Andromeda is a distinct galaxy by observing these stars. These variable stars are useful as standard candles due to their tight period luminosity relation.
Cepheid? It might be Cepheid. Cepheid?
20.
Nice.
Good job.
Astronomy.
On the first one, shouldn't it say largest? It says second largest in the local group. Just
I can mark it for that later. Yeah, it didn't wind up mattering, so that's good. Toss up 3. While dying of breast cancer, an author with this surname wrote about her affair with Catherine Peabody Loring. That author with this surname may have inspired a character created by her brother, who delivers a feminist lecture and moves in with Olive Chancellor, the cousin of a...
James.
Power. Bonus, an essay by Iris Marion Young discusses how pregnancy blurs the line between this concept and the external world. For 10 points each, name this concept contrasted with the mind in Cartesian dualism.
Body.
Yes. Young cites this philosopher's claim that pregnancy is experienced as the splitting of the subject. This Bulgarian-born philosopher developed the concept of abjection in Powers of Horror. Answer, please.
Grigor.
It's Julia Kristeva. Young argues that pregnancy undermines the distinction between transcendence and immanence, contrasting this book's description of a group doomed to immanence and barred from transcendence. This book includes sections on facts and myths and lived experience. Answer, please.
Critique of pure reason.
The second sex, you get 10.
Oh.
Toss-up 4, grave goods unearthed at Canossa show one of these creatures holding a zither, suggesting their role as guardians and psychopomps. Aphrodite saved bouteilles from these creatures, who were made into crowns following a failed challenge instigated by Hera. Demeter transfigured these handmaidens of Persephone, who resided on a corpse-laden island near the Strait of Messina and its 2 monsters. These creatures drowned themselves if a person passed by while
The sirens.
10.
Yeah.
Bonus, drops are collected during this technique in the receiving flask whenever the temperature plateaus. For 10 points each, name this technique, whose laboratory apparatus consists of a round-bottomed glass flask immersed in a mantle, attached to a tall glass column with a cold finger on top that leads to the receiving flask.
Distillation?
Yes, the first drop collected in the distillate is the chemical with the lowest value for this temperature, since it vaporizes first.
Boiling point?
Exact term required. Rashig rings and ceramic saddles are used as this type of material in both lab scale and industrial distillation columns. These materials give a purer product by reducing the vapor flow rate. Answer, please.
Condenser.
It's a packing material for a column. You get 20.
Interesting.
Toss-up 5, John Sweller's CLT criticizes constructivist approaches in these places, such as those favored by Jerome Bruner. Carol Dweck first made a distinction between entity and incremental theorists to describe people in these places. To design objectives, workers at these places may use a pyramid of 6 goals called Bloom's taxonomy.
Embassy.
Sorry, no. Workers at these places use the technique of scaffolding to target individuals' zone of proximal development. Inquiry-based approaches have become widespread in these places to promote 21st century skills, like critical thinking. Flipped examples of these places may use take-home online lectures. For 10 points, name these places that educate children.
Schools.
Yeah. Jai Singh II, the first Sawai of Jaipur, translated Euclid's Elements into Sanskrit and relied on a zij created by Muhammad Shah Rangila to construct one of these buildings. For 10 points each, name these facilities, examples of which include Jaipur's Jantar Mantar.
Probably observatory. Observatory?
Yes, this Mughal emperor conferred the title of Sawai on Jai Singh II. This emperor locked away his father Shah Jahan and reinstituted the jizya.
Aurangzeb.
Jai Singh also created one of these objects known as Jaivana, which was only used during a demonstration to Muhammad Shah. The Hungarian engineer Orban built one of these weapons known as the Basilic that brought down Constantinople's walls in 1453.
Cannon?
30.
Yes.
Toss-up 6, this king largely avoided his capital after Parisians rioted on rumors that officials were harvesting the blood of children to treat leprosy. Although this monarch founded the École Militaire, his troops under the Prince of Soubise were humiliated by the Prussians at the Battle of Rossbach. This monarch's father-in-law, Stanislaw I, gave up...
Charles?
No. Gave up claims to the Polish throne on advice of this king's chief minister, Cardinal Fleury. This king's namesake art style was promulgated by Madame de Pompadour and evolved into Rococo. The loss of Quebec and other expenses from the 7 Years' War led this monarch to supposedly proclaim, "After us, the deluge." For 10 points, name this French monarch who succeeded the Sun King.
Louis 15.
Yes. Ukrainian composer Nikolai Deletsky's 1677 treatise Grammatica introduced the first known version of this diagram. For 10 points each, name this diagram. Notes separated by a tritone appear on opposite sides of this diagram.
Circle of fifths.
Yes. One of the first internationally recognized Ukrainian composers was Vasyl Barvinsky, who wrote a Ukrainian piece of this type. The clarinet glissando opens a George Gershwin piece of this type for piano and jazz band.
Rhapsody.
Yes, Kiev-born composer Reinhold Glier wrote a modern E-flat major concerto for this instrument. Germaine Taillefer wrote a concertino for this instrument and dedicated her sonata for it to Nicanor Zavaleta.
Flute.
It's a harp. You get 20.
Solid.
It's fine.
Toss-up 7. This quantity for a chemical equals its generation minus consumption term in a mole balance. Langmuir-Hinchelwood theory assumes this quantity equals the number of occupied adsorbent sites times the turnover number. If 1 over this quantity is plotted against 1 over concentration, the x-intercept is minus 1 over the Michelson constant. This quantity times the stoichiometric coefficient equals the time derivative of molarity in the differential form of its empirical law. This quantity plateaus at V max as the concentration
We actually read
10.
Rate constant, right? Same thing.
I could accept either, yeah. Bonus. A Louis Menand essay on how to misread this author cites her sister Cassandra burning their letters as a reason for a lack of biographical insight. For 10 points each, name this author. Menand notes how Elizabeth Bennet misreads Mr. Darcy in this author's novel Pride and Prejudice.
Austin.
Yes. Menand refutes claims of Austen as apolitical by analyzing how the enclosure of land in this novel leads thieves to steal Mrs. Weston's turkeys. Mr. Knightley later marries the title character of this novel. Yes. Menand closes by highlighting the little provisions the Austens had after the death of Jane's father George, who had this profession. An Austen character with this profession desires to set an example of matrimony by marrying Elizabeth Bennet, gets rejected, and then turns to Charlotte.
Yeah, so what does he do? I don't actually know.
Wait, is it Frank Church?
Answer, please.
Doctor.
He's a priest or a clergyman. Mr. Collins. You get 20. Toss up 8. Haydn's 82nd Symphony earned its nickname by imitating a form of this instrument associated with dancing bears. Gavottes may be extended with a section named after a type of this instrument called the musette. The Galician gaita is one of these instruments, another type of which may play pibroch tunes and was once classified as a weapon of war.
bagpipe.
That's power.
Nice. I thought it was a piano.
Dirk von Barbaren inspired this artist's depiction of a black-robed sex worker in his painting The Procuress. For 10 points each, name this artist. In 2022, the National Gallery of Art determined that Girl with a Flute was probably not painted by this artist, reducing the total number of surviving works by this artist of The Music Lesson to about 35.
Vermeer.
Yes, Vermeer reproduced Barbarin's The Procuress in his painting The Concert, which has been missing since it was stolen from this museum in 1990. This Boston museum also houses The Rape of Europa.
Gardner.
Yes. Barbarin was a member of the Utrecht-based school of artists known for their admiration of this Italian master who painted The Calling of St. Matthew.
Caravaggio.
30. Toss up 9. One person in this work interprets a hairpin in dish soap as a premonition that another character will return to him. That character hallucinates about walking back from ancestral Africa for 300 years in this work after he ties cinder blocks to his feet in an abortive treasure-finding scheme. In this work, Mock Hillman follows a line of power.
Nice.
In the 1950s, a popular joke held that this organization's purpose was to keep the Russians out, the Americans in, and the Germans down. For 10 points each, name this military alliance. Dwight Eisenhower served as its first Supreme Commander.
NATO.
Yes. NATO founding signer Robert Schuman was instrumental in forming this economic alliance between France, West Germany, Italy, and the Benelux nations that was named for 2 commodities.
Oh, it's coal and steel.
I need more.
Coal and steel. Coal and steel alliance.
So it's the European coal and steel community.
Oh.
I needed all of that. In 1998, Bill Clinton designated this country as a major non-NATO ally. This country's economy cratered following the neoliberal Menemism period in the late 1990s.
Argentina.
Yeah, it's 20.
Oh, we could 30 that. Good one.
Toss up 10. This leader withdrew his country from the Court of Human Rights following a dispute with TV station owner Baruch Ifker. TV crews routinely captured this leader in the north of his country, personally directing flood relief during a particularly bad El Nino season in 1997. Under the campaign of Change 90,
Fujimori.
power.
Oh, that's good.
Cambio.
That's really good. That's really good.
This This language, whose name means well made, was used for the oldest surviving linguistic treatise. For 10 points each, name this language, which was also used to write epics like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Yeah. The oldest surviving linguistic treatise, the Ushtadhyadi, was written by this ancient author. This author employed a recursive meta-language to describe every aspect of Sanskrit grammar.
Kalidasa.
That's Daktiputra Panini. Panini used the grammatical marking loon to denote the aorist type of this linguistic feature. Latin usually combines this linguistic feature with grammatical aspect and has 6 of these features in the indicative mood.
Oh, tenses. Yeah.
Answer?
No. Tenses?
Yeah. 20. And that's the half. I have Lambert 200, TJ 170. This character was played by Paul Schofield in a stark 1962 Beckett-inspired production by Peter Brook. An actor playing this character collapses while repeating the line, "The Wren goes to it," in the opening of Station 11. This character despairingly declares, "Oh, reason not the need," after earlier criticizing a response with "nothing will come of power." A Society for Female Cigar Smokers is named for this author, who was known for wearing male clothing without a permit. For 10 points each, name this author of rustic novels like The Devil's Pool and Francois Le Champi. The protagonist escapes her elderly husband, Colonel Del Mare, and runs away with Ralph to Réunion in her novel, Indiana. Answer, please.
Sand.
Yes, this author of Les Miserables said that Sand was an idea and a great woman in his eulogy for her.
Hugo.
In a novel by this author, the narrator's mother lulls him to sleep by reading Francois Le Champi and kissing him goodnight. That novel by this author begins, "For a long time, I went to bed early."
Truth.
30. Toss-up 12. The Afghani Dari language refers to these things with the Arabic names of certain constellations. As told by the Surah At-Tawbah, polytheists practicing Nasi manipulatively postponed 4 sacred instances of these things to justify fighting. Rajab is among the 4 sacred instances of these things. These divisions of the Hijri end upon the observance of Hilal after sunset. A period of mourning, named for one of these things, features self-flagellations on Ashura in remembrance of Karbala. One of these things, which translates to scorching heat in reference to fasting.
Is it like months of the Islamic calendar?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
That is
Nice.
nice.
I didn't know what
Isn't Ashura where Ali died? Like that's
No, that's a
holiday.
Bonus. Taiwanese men raced to grab flags and offerings at the top of Greece towers during grappling ceremonies meant to scare off beings named for having this trait. For 10 points each, give this trait used to describe certain animalistically emotional Chinese ghosts appeased during the Zhongyuan festival, which is alternatively named in English for this kind of ghost.
Hopping.
Sure.
Hopping.
It is a hungry ghost.
Like
During the Zhongyuan festival, these paper objects are set adrift on rivers to guide hungry ghosts with their lights.
lantern.
lantern.
Yes, during the Zhongyuan festival, celebrants burn effigies of the king of hell, Dashie, as well as the merciful goddess Guanyin, who is seen as one of these figures. These figures remain behind to help others achieve enlightenment.
It's like Avalokiteshvara, so what is that? Like a
Oh, it's
Bodhi.
Bodhisattva.
Answer,
So-
please.
Bodhisattva.
20.
Thank you, Chris.
Toss-up 13, a culture that made cicadas from this material also used it to plug the 9 orifices of a corpse. The so-called New Zealand form of this material was known by the Maori as punamu. This material was used to depict a were-jaguar on the
Jade.
power.
Oh,
How
wow.
was that Olmecs?
Yes.
That's
Nice.
Took it. That was the underhurst.
In 2023, Will Ratcliffe's lab evolved snowflake yeast with this trait to grow 20,000 times bigger than wild-type yeast. For 10 points each, name this property possessed by all fungi except yeast. When food is scarce, slime molds switch to this trait and form fruiting bodies.
Asexual.
Answer, please.
Asexual.
It's multicellular. The size of single cells is capped by the need to keep this parameter above an inverse micron. Allen's rule says this ratio is smaller for animals in cold climates.
Oh,
Sure.
surface area to volume ratio.
Nice.
A really long single cell is impractical because it imposes too much stress on this cellular network of microfilaments and microtubules. Analogous to human bones, this structure provides shape and support to the cell membrane.
Cytoskeleton.
20.
Free time.
Timeout? Yeah.
You also get a score check.
Yeah. I have Lambert 200, TJ 290. Toss of 14. Joe Brazil's recording of this album, performed live in Seattle, was released by Impulse Records in 2021. Art Davis and Archie Shepp appear on an alternate take of this album's opening track that omits a vocal chant.
I love Supreme.
Power.
I don't even know that.
Kulak Mool's dominance is evidenced by the widespread distribution of its emblem glyph depicting this animal. For 10 points each, what creatures appeared in smoke in Mayan visions during bloodletting rituals? An Aztec deity represented by this animal created man using bones from Mictlan.
Serpent.
Yes. El Castillo is alternatively known as the temple of this Mayan feathered serpent, sometimes conflated with Cucumats and Quetzalcoatl. A legendary king with this deity's name founded the city of Mayapan.
Pachacudi.
It's Kukulkan. The Quiche feathered serpent, Cucumats, creates the world at the beginning of the Popol Vuh, which tells the story of Xbalanque and Hunapu, who have this relation.
Twins.
Castor and Pollux had this relation.
Twins, right?
Say again.
Twins.
20.
Nice. I was sure he was twins. Whatever.
Toss of 15. The energy spectra of these particles are measured with plastic-covered spheres of BF3 named for Tom W. Bonner. Radiation of these particles displaces lattice atoms in Wigner's disease. The reproduction factor of these particles is denoted eta in Fermi's four-factor formula. A beryllium tamper is used to counteract thermal expansion and increase the reflection of these
Neutrons.
power. 787 names are inscribed on a wall in Meligalas, the site of a bloody battle in this country. For 10 points each, name this country where communist EAM-ELAS guerrillas attempted to overthrow the British-backed monarchy of King Paul. The Truman Doctrine grew out of a response to this country's civil war.
Greece.
Yes, the war erupted following a series of anti-communist riots known by this name. This name was also given to a series of pogroms and anti-Bolshevik killings during the Russian Civil War.
It's like the December action. Like, I don't know if that word. December actions?
It's called the White Terror.
Oh.
The Greek communists were initially supported by this Yugoslavian leader who split with Stalin over non-alignment.
Tito.
20. Toss of 16. A road in this region's steeple brink is named for legendary smuggler Cruel Coppinger. In 1839, 40,000 pounds worth of Brazilian gold dust was stolen from this region's port of Falmouth. In this region, Stanhope Forbes pioneered British plein air painting at an artist's colony in St. Ives. Words still used in the mining industry, such as gunnies, originate from this region's namesake Celtic language. This region's 3,000-year-old tin mine was granted UNESCO World Heritage status in 2006, along with one in bordering Devon. A town in this county on the English Channel titles Gilbert and Sullivan's The Pirates of Penzance. Truro is the largest city in, for 10 points, what peninsular county?
Cape Cod.
No. On the southwest end of England.
York.
It's Cornwall.
Oh my god. Yeah. Cornwall.
I should have paused.
Cornwall.
It's okay. It's okay.
You're good.
It's okay.
You're good. It's fine. I was gonna pause it.
Where's Cape Cod though? English.
Toss of 17. While working to enforce this policy, Richard Two Gun Hart was pitted against his younger brothers. Attempts to circumvent this policy led to people developing Jake Leg syndrome. Enforcement of this policy was the cause of tensions that led to the violent Pineapple Primary.
Like, Chicago anti-gang policy.
No.
Prohibition.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
So, one second, sorry.
Bro, pineapple
It was
Primary
power. It was power.
Yes. Okay. Oh my god, bro.
By definition, anharmonic oscillators deviate from this statement. For 10 points each, name this law that states that force equals the negative spring constant times displacement.
Hooke's law.
Yes. Though pendulums are anharmonic oscillators, their motion is approximated by that of harmonic oscillators because for small angle theta, 1 minus 1/2 theta squared is approximately equal to this function of theta.
Tan theta? Is it not?
Yeah, sure.
Tan theta?
Cosine.
Oh.
An anharmonic oscillator whose potential has a small fourth degree term and is an introductory example to this theory. This theory decomposes the Hamiltonian with one of a similar solved system in order to approximate solutions to the Schrodinger equation.
Theory.
No, bro.
Big Bang.
Answer, please.
Complex analysis.
It's perturbation theory. You get 10.
Okay, you said.
Toss of 18. The prototypical cation pi interaction in biology binds this molecule to the tryptophan in a ligand-gated ion channel. This compound's succinyl derivative, or antagonists of its receptors like vecuronium, are administered before endotracheal intubation as a paralytic. Organophosphate poisoning prevents the hydrolysis of an ester bond in this quaternary amine. Nightshade toxins like scopolamine, atropine, muscarine, 10.
I actually knew that part. I have that card.
Frank Lentrichia and Andrew Dubois essay collection titled For This Technique examines R.P. Blackmore's reading of Wallace Stevens. For 10 points each, name this literary technique emphasized by new critics in which a piece of text is meticulously read for structure and language and then interpreted.
Like deconstructionism?
It's close reading. The collection contains John Crow Ransom's essay on the 10 unrhymed lines and 11 unequal stanzas of this elegy, in which a drowned genius of the shore wanders the perilous flood.
This elegy?
Elegy written.
Answer, please. It's Lycidas by John Milton.
By
Another essay on John Keats as a Sylvan historian examines whether the phrase beauty is truth, truth beauty, diminishes an ode about this title object, which is called an unravished bride of quietness.
Grecian or
10 points.
time out.
Time out.
You guys are up like 110 or something.
What's the score?
270 for Lambert, 350 for Thomas Jefferson with 2 to go.
2 to go. Oh.
I screwed up big time.
No, you don't worry about it.
Okay, there's a lit.
It's not deep. It's not deep.
There's a
Okay.
lit in FA. Oh, actually, there's VFA.
Hang on, let's. Don't worry about it.
Alright, need luck in the Wait, I'm just thinking.
All right, everybody ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck, both teams. Here's toss of 19. In one poem, this type of animal is teased with a pipe stem and is described as once so beautiful, but now so funny and ugly. In that poem, this type of animal is exiled among hoots and jeers, but formerly laughed at the archer. This prince of cloud
Albatross.
power.
Oh, nice. What was that face last year? Like some albatross.
And so the following about John Pintard, the financier and founder of several historical societies. For 10 points each, Pintard lobbied for this holiday, which was later embraced by the Italian-American community. Many municipalities celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day instead of this holiday.
Columbus Day.
Pintard helped draft the constitution for this organization. A leader of this organization was depicted with a money bag for a head by cartoonist Thomas Nast.
Tammany Hall.
Pintard co-founded the American Bible Society, whose early efforts included translation of the Bible into these people's language. These people lost control of land in the Walking Treaty.
Oh, Lenape.
30. Toss of 20. This artist appears seated holding cards in a painting by a contemporary whose studio was
Degas.
Sorry, no.
You're good.
Was a short walk from this artist's. In a painting by this artist, a dog sits across from a young girl reclining in a blue armchair. In a painting by this artist, a woman wearing all black holds a fan at her side while looking through binoculars at an opera. This yeah, that is still in power.
I mixed it up. They got made it.
That's okay.
Onion-shaped examples of these architectural features were created to resemble burning candles or prevent the accumulation of snow. For 10 points each, name these architectural features, which often top cathedrals such as St. Basil's.
Like domes or
Yeah.
Yeah. Onion domes have a larger diameter than these often cylindrical supporting sections that lie beneath a dome. The Hagia Sophia's dome lacks one of these sections and instead lies directly on its pendentives.
Entablature?
A half arch.
It's a drum or a tholobate.
Oh.
8 interlaced arches create a tulip-shaped onion dome in this city, surrounded by 4 pavilions called chutrees. A red sandstone fort named for this city surrounds Charba-inspired gardens.
Wait, no, this might be
Agra, the city.
What is it, Agra?
20.
Yeah, but what do you think?
Final score 310 Lambert 400 TJ. Very good playing.
Good game.
Okay.